On today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night, we have the Hall of Fame weekend here in the NBA. Who got into the Hall? Let's remember their game. There's been some unfortunate rookie injuries around the league, and let's play buy or sell. Is this a real parity era in the NBA, or is it a bit overhyped?
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Let's get it going on Locked On NBA Game Night here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from, including on YouTube. Thank you so much for making us your first listen as an everydayer as we take you through the offseason and into the regular season 7 days a week. We are here today. I'm Rylan, Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Camille Davis, host of Locked On Bucks, and we're going to take you through a Saturday in the association while college football takes the main stage this Saturday. The NBA still has a slice of news. They have the Hall of Fame weekend. They've gotten some unfortunate news with some rookie injuries ahead of training camp, and we'll play a fun game of buy or sell. But Camille, what do you think of whenever you give us this Hall of Fame class? Well, what's the biggest memories that you have? What do you think of the Basketball Hall of Fame in general?
Man, so this particular Hall of Fame class, with Carmelo being like a headliner of it, Carmelo is one of those NBA players for me personally that was just like super influential. Like, he came into the league my freshman year in high school, and all I can remember is the hallways with all of those baby blue Nugget jerseys and just the impact Carmelo had, not only on the court, but just culturally as well, of just being that big. And then on the court, the mid-range game, the F out of here rebounds, just the beauty that he brought to the game. So Carmelo was one for me, seeing him get that induction where I was just like, I'm really happy to see it. And Maya Moore was the other one for me where I was just kind of like, one, getting old that these players are now the ones that are getting inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. But Maya Moore was something special for women's basketball. And even for myself, of just looking at a woman playing basketball, being like, yo, she is so cold, and having how many people respected her. Like, this is a class, although a small one, that has a lot of memories for me personally.
Yeah, this is a really good class of players on all fronts. I mean, and even Billy Donovan as a coach, and he had a great college career. This is a Basketball Hall of Fame. This is it encompasses everything. So like what he did at Florida still really matters. And so just up and down the list, it's weird to get to a point now where like everyone on the Basketball Hall of Fame list, I've in some way remember doing something. And like there's not guys who you haven't like watched or women who you haven't seen. And Maya Moore is a great shout because this. I mean, first thing that you don't know is I'm a big Tennessee fan. My whole family is from Tennessee, and the UConn-Tennessee rivalry, big deal. Maya Moore, I mean, you couldn't do anything. I mean, it was impossible to stop her. It was also impossible to dislike her. It was impossible to not appreciate her game. She was one of those players where even though she could really dominate her opponents, I mean, you just tip your cap and kind of move on from there with her. So I'm glad that she's in the Hall of Fame. And when you look at the NBA side of things, Carmelo Anthony is another one that jumps out to me as well for obvious reasons. I mean, all these people are Hall of Famers. They all jump out. But not to date you, but in high school for me, he came to Oklahoma City. And it was like, I know that it didn't work out. And I know that they didn't have team success, but if you put yourself back into the shoes of where you were at this time when he agreed to go to Oklahoma City, so he had to waive a no trade clause. Mm-hmm. He had to literally pick to go to one of the smallest markets in the league that just saw Kevin Durant leave. I thought that all that was pretty cool, like the initial thing. And then of that trio of Paul George and Russ Westbrook and Carmelo, you also had Carmelo and them come together for a nice little win streak in the middle of the season where you thought it was going to be able to work. I mean, they just absolutely crushed the Golden State Warriors the day before Thanksgiving. And like that was the highlight of the big three. But then in the midst of that, in classic Melo fashion, there are just these little tidbit stories that you remember, like at media day, they say I got to come off the bench. Like that's their line that everybody still quotes to this day in Oklahoma City. Anytime you ever discuss the starting lineup in Oklahoma City, that line gets brought up. I mean, the way that it ended in OKC, and then he was able to bounce back really well with Portland at the end of that run. But Carmelo, heck of a player, and he's one of those guys that never won a championship at the NBA level. Did win, of course, the gold medals, and did win, of course, the college championship. But whenever you have a move that everyone emulates and tries to pull off, you're a Hall of Famer. I mean, even just something as simple as that, like everyone tried to work in that jab step jumper to their game. And what he was able to do with that as a prolific scorer, it's clearly Hall of Fame worthy. Glad he's in. And then the Dwight Howard memories.
Yeah.
I mean, Dwight Howard and Shaq just beefing or not beefing or respectfully beefing like every other day on TNT was a core memory whenever he was in Orlando. And he was at a time, like obviously now he's been surpassed, but as the game goes, but at a time, and if you're just strictly talking about in my lifetime that I actually watched live, he was the best shot blocker I've ever seen. Now, again, I just dated myself with the Carmelo thing, so I'm not old. I haven't seen a lot of shot blockers, but at a time, like he was the best that I'd ever seen. And so I do think that he's, of course, worthy of this and did end up getting that championship with the Lakers. So credit to Dwight, but I mean, 8-time all-star, 8-time all-NBA, 3-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year. He was awesome in Orlando. The first stint in LA didn't go so great. Second stint in LA went a lot better. But I think that all these people are very deserving of this Hall of Fame honor.
Dwight Howard is one of those guys where I think the later parts of his career and then just kind of being a little goofy off the court, one could say kind of affected how people view him as a basketball player. But like that Orlando Magic version of Dwight Howard, to your point of being just an elite shot blocker, an elite defensive anchor, he was so good. I was actually surprised that he didn't make the NBA 75. Like I thought that he had a resume that was worthy of that accolade as well. So seeing him get into the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame, I think is well deserved for him. Sue Bird, another legend there. Again, a really small class this year, which for the last few years, they felt a little bit outside, like these are some big classes coming in. But this one, with just these people, Sue Bird as well, somebody who just, I mean, you want to talk about a legend, especially for the franchise, like for Seattle and everything that she did, like just a legend. And then to see the Redeem team also getting that Basketball Hall of Fame nod as well, a team that the Netflix documentary captured it really well of everything that was coming on for that team at that time. For those listeners who might not remember it exactly of what it was like, but just expecting every time the USA goes to the Olympics, it's going to be a gold. It's going to be a gold. And then it wasn't. So you put together this other team that kind of got to get their lick back and show the world like, no, actually USA basketball still runs this. So yeah, a fun class this year going in. But Rylan, I am curious. I have to ask you this because of our age difference here a little bit. When you think of Carmelo Anthony, what jersey pops into your mind first?
Well, if I'm actually thinking of game highlights, it is the New York Knicks jerseys that pop in first. If I'm thinking about just like basketball in general, he was on a basketball video game. I believe it's NBA Live 2005. And that was my absolute favorite basketball video game. And he was in a Nuggets jersey. So like I think about him in a Nuggets jersey on NBA Live 2005. But at that point, again, I mean, I was in high school when he was in Oklahoma City. So I was, in an elementary school playing video games about basketball and watching the Mavericks, but not like not watching the Denver Nuggets. Sue me, for not being a 7-year-old watching the Nuggets. So I would say like for his game impact, New York is where things really picked up. I remember vividly like him demanding the trade, and that's kind of where I hooked in full time to the NBA, just locked and loaded. But I appreciate you continuing to talk about the small class, because this has been a Hall of Fame that's gotten a lot of ridicule from the rest of sports, of just, oh, it's so easy, everybody gets into the Hall of Fame. So like whenever you try to defend a player and say like, well, hold on now, you're talking kind of crazy about a Hall of Famer, that you're just met with everybody gets into the Hall of Fame. This is a class that everyone deserves to get into the Hall of Fame, and it's a smaller, reduced class. And I think that sometimes sometimes, yes, there are, because they encompass, your overseas career and your high school career and your college career. Sometimes there are guys that get into this Hall of Fame that wouldn't otherwise get into just a professional basketball Hall of Fame. And people have a hard time separating. This is not a professional NBA basketball Hall of Fame. This is a basketball Hall of Fame. Everything you do counts. Every little thing that you do counts, and that adds up in a big way to be Hall of Famer. But I do think that there's no debating any single item on this Hall of Fame enshrinement list this weekend, all deserved. Everything. I mean, even the referee that they're going to let in. I just think that this is a great class, and it's great that the NBA, I don't want to say that they pulled in the reins or anything, but it just is great that they have a class like this where you can't make the same old tired jokes about the Basketball Hall of Fame. Coming up, we do have some bad news, though, and it's rookie injuries across the league, and we're going to play a game of buy or sell. But first, I want to say right now, we're good friends over at FanDuel. Go check out FanDuel today because FanDuel is amazing and the NFL season is here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff this Sunday with a can't-miss offer. Week number 1. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 if your first $5 bet wins in bonus bets to use across the app. That's a first $5 bet. If it's your first one and you win, you get $300 in bonus bets across the app to use for yourself at FanDuel. So if you're ready to play, go download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And if you only love basketball, they still have basketball lines out there for you that you can bet on as well, including opening night, Thunder, 6.5-point favorites against the Houston Rockets. But that NFL line there is already out for all of the Sunday slate. You can see Washington 6.5-point favorites at home against New York. You can see the Jets 2.5-point favorites against underdogs against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Go check it out today at FanDuel.com. Whenever you place your first $5 bet, if you win it, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Here with Camille Davis, I'm Rylan Stiles. We're talking now bad news with the rookie injuries. So let's start with the easier one to diagnose for me. It's just Shams Charania did put out that San Antonio Spurs number 2 overall pick, Dylan Harper, underwent surgery Friday to repair a partially torn ligament in his left thumb, but he suffered in a workout on Wednesday. And the hope is that Harper will be ready for the opener against Dallas. Now, that's great because, I mean, yes, that's the hope. But even if it doesn't happen, right, if you have the ambition of being back for opening night, you're going to be back at some point, opening week, opening month, like some point in that time frame. So you're kind of good on that front. And in the NBA, it is a long season. Mm-hmm. But in the NBA, because it's such a long season, you don't practice that much. Like you cannot get into the practice rhythm that other sports can get into because you're always on the go. You're always on the move. And as a rookie trying to integrate yourself into the league, trying to integrate yourself into a new team, like, and even though, Dylan Harper had to do that at Rutgers, yeah, but at Rutgers, they played twice a week and they practice the rest of the time. Like, so it's going to be interesting to see if this does slow down the moving train for San Antonio, because I thought that San Antonio could be a team that just has a lot of momentum entering the season and is able to ride that momentum to wins and able to get to the postseason in the West. But the West is so tough that if, let's say, Harper misses the whole training camp and the whole preseason and he starts slow, to me, that's not an indictment on Harper. That's just kind of how his career has to unfold at that point if he's going to be out for that whole time. So I wouldn't be panicking about Harper, but I would be concerned about San Antonio because starting slow in the Western Conference could be a death sentence with how good this league is. So I think that for San Antonio, you've avoided disastrous news, but it's still not great news because now you have to put a lot of pressure on that rookie to get back healthy, around the opener and just from the word go be awesome without having any sort of like hiccups or mess ups in training camp or in preseason.
Yeah, I mean, you said that beautifully. I love the fact that you brought up the fact that during the season, teams do not get to practice like that in the NBA. And that's one thing I say often, like 2 seasons ago when Doc Rivers joined the Milwaukee Bucks halfway through, and he was mentioning like, It's kind of difficult coming in halfway through. You don't have a training camp. You don't have a chance to practice. You're learning so much on the fly. And I always say, like, listen, this is not NBA 2K. As much as I love playing 2K,
Yeah.
this is not NBA 2K. Like, what goes on behind the scenes matters. That practice time matters. Developing chemistry matters. And for Harper, who, I mean, a top draft pick in this class, somebody who is now going to miss training camp, a time where they get the most extensive practicing in for the squad. Missing that on-court time is going to hurt, but the positive side to it is, like you mentioned, it's not expected to keep him out for a very long time. He should be back at some point. And the Spurs do have some guard depth on that team as well. So it's a hit that they can take. You don't want to take it for too long because, again, he is a top prospect that you want to see on the court, but you do have some guard depth that you can kind of use until he comes back officially, and you keep working your way through that. It's quite different than the situation in Oklahoma City right now, where your rookies lost for an entire year for the second year in a row.
Yeah, 3 times in the last 4 years for Oklahoma City that this has happened to them. And I just think that that's for the Spurs. I know that I painted a kind of dark picture. Ultimately, Dylan Harper is so good that this could not matter. And he could just come back, be healthy, and be good right out of the gate. The only reason I would be a Debbie Downer for San Antonio, if you want to view it that way, one, it's just not fun to go to training camp knowing that your rookie's not going to play. Yeah. Trust me, I know. Number two, that guard depth. I mean, if you lose out on all that practice time and preseason time, he's having to kind of conform to a new environment, and not just like, oh, the big scary NBA, but look at his role in Rutgers and look at his projected role in San Antonio, where you're playing next to a Fox, you're playing next to a Wemby who demands a lot of touches and attention and on ball time. You're playing in a crowded guard rotation with the rookie of the year from a year ago. Like, where was his touches going to come from? How many times should he be aggressive on the offensive end versus how should he try to find out what his off ball offensive role is? And all that stuff could have been worked out smoother in the preseason and in the training camp period. And now you just won't get that smooth ride. You're going to have to figure this out on the fly. Now, the good news is, for Spurs fans, to leave you with a piece of good news from both of us, Dylan Harper's really good. And he's talented enough and smart enough to pick this up with no problem. And so I fully still expect the Spurs to make the postseason this season. But it's just something to watch for early in the year, that if there is a small slight hiccup in his game or in the Spurs, whole entire repertoire, this could be a reason why, because of that missed practice time. Yeah. For Oklahoma City, theirs is like, it's kind of weird because theirs is worse than the Spurs rookie because he's out for the whole season. But it's Thomas Sorber, who I love, and I think that Thomas Sorber is going to be a really good player in this league. But Oklahoma City has Chet Holmgren, has Isaiah Hartenstein, has Jay Will, who had a really good postseason when he was called upon. Like, the difference in them repeating, the difference in them winning 68 games again this season, it was not resting on Thomas Sorber. In fact, if you want to go to FanDuel, you can probably feel more comfortable taking the over now on the Thunder because they don't have the temptation to lean all into like finding out developmental minutes for Sorber, which was not the plan. I mean, from my understanding, this team was gonna go for it. I mean, they were gonna not really worry too much about developing his minutes overall at the NBA level. So it sucks for him. I mean, I feel really, really bad for the individual, Thomas Sorber, who just got done dealing with the foot injury that held him up the last half of his college career and of summer league. And then, he's busted at trying to get ready for his first ever training camp, tears his ACL. Like that, that just sucks. Injuries suck all the time, but they particularly suck when you care as much as he does and when you just dealt with one. And you're wanting to get on the other side of that one and get to the ACL thing, which he was able to accomplish that by getting back on the floor and then tears his ACL. So it sucks for him individually. For the Thunder, it doesn't suck for anything about them on the court in terms of their hopes and goals and dreams. It does, however, I think, if you want to, kind of have me do the whole one negative thing for the Thunder like I did for the Spurs, you do have to make a decision on Isaiah Hartenstein this summer.
Yeah.
You have to decide to decline and sign him. You have to decide to pick up his option. You have to decide to try to extend him. However you want to do it with Isaiah Hartenstein, you got to either bring him back or let him go. And let's just say that, Thomas Sorber pulled off an AJ Mitchell. If you remember this time last year, which I don't think anyone nationally does remember because they shouldn't. AJ Mitchell was a second-round pick afterthought. No, like nobody thought he was going to play at all.
Right.
They had already printed out his OKC blue jersey. Like it was like not even a thing. And then you're at the training camp, and all the players kept saying, "Oh, AJ Mitchell can really play." Okay, yeah. You're hyping up your teammate, sure. And then game 1 happens in Denver on opening night on TNT, and AJ Mitchell's in the rotation. And AJ Mitchell stays in that rotation until January, and then he gets hurt. And I bring up him getting hurt because that's what kept him out of the rotation. But look at that just relatively small amount of time from October to the start of January. You knew he could play. You knew he could fit the rotation. You knew at worst he could be a key reserve for you. And like you just already knew that when he went out. So that's not a ton of time that you would need to expenditure onto a rookie to figure out, hey, could you count him in the immediate future? And you don't get that opportunity with Sorber now, because if you're looking at the Thunder, my projection before the injury, frankly, Thunder were going to just bust out of the gate, win a ton of games. They'll have a 8-game lead on the number 2 seed at the end of the season. They can get that run for Sorber, see what he has. I mean, you'll know pretty immediately, is he more of a long-term guy? Is he more of a short-term guy that can fill in? And now you don't get that option. Now you're going into the summer blind. However comment to that would be, with the amount of money that you have to invest into Isaiah Hartenstein, the difference in doing that versus not doing that is not Thomas Sorber. So I mean, it kind of comes full circle, but it does suck not to see him. And the good news for the Thunder is they do have success stories. I mean, Chet Holmgren, success story. You had Nick Collison, who has his jersey retired in OKC, success story, who was also out for his entire rookie season in Seattle, but with the same regime. You have Nikola Topic last year, who has successfully gotten back on the court, and we saw him dominate Summer League. Of course, he hasn't done anything in the real NBA, but he has successfully gotten back on the court. And now you have Thomas Sorber. So I do think that it's all going to be all right, but it does just suck because he's, especially for a team that has a 99% roster retention rate, you're just kind of ready to see something new. And something new is no longer there. So,
the rich, man, that sounds beautiful, but oh man, the roster is just set. We feel good. We're champions. We know we're getting. I get it. All right, champions. I get it. But no, I mean, what you're saying though is the exact reason why so many other teams around the league have a fear about the Thunder over the next coming years, because they have their key guys locked in, and everybody points to the CBA and like, oh, they're going to have to make decisions, and they will. But really mainly amongst those role guys, and they have so many draft picks they can keep replenishing and just hope they continue to hit. So like it's a perfect storm of assets, of current roster composition, of front office. Like the Thunder have a perfect balance right now. And if any team can take a hit where they lose a first round draft pick for an entire season, the Thunder is one of those teams that can do it. And to your point about Topic being on the team as well, like he hasn't got to the NBA court yet, but at least you have another guy on the roster next to this rookie who can be like, hey dog, I just went through this last year. Let me help build you up. And this is a Thunder team that seems really close. So that mental aspect of injury, that can be really difficult, especially when you just got over one and you're back, and then you got the highs of getting drafted, then the lows again are like, dang, I'm not going to play at all this year. Like it's a good group of guys around him, I think, to help him get through.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I love that point because I look at even Chet Holmgren, who dealt with the same thing of like missing his true first season, but then also dealt with the same thing that Sorber did that we talked about earlier of gets that injury, starting to feel good to get back stuff again, plays all 82 games his actual rookie season, and then fractures his hip. Like it's just a bad luck play. And so it's like, if anyone knows about compiling injuries at this point, it's Chet Holmgren early on in his career. And he can kind of work through that with Sorber, that there is going to be that light at the end of the tunnel. And of course, Holmgren was a huge part in them getting a ring. So he knows about coming back from injury and making a big impact. Coming up, let's play buy or sell.
Yeah.
We're back on Locked On NBA Game Night, talking to you today about life in the association here in September with a game of buy or sell, where I throw out topics to Camille Davis and she tells me if she's going to buy them, if she's going to sell them, and we'll see if we have any differing stock advice for you with here on the old Locked On NBA Game Night stock market. Buy or sell parity in the NBA after we've seen the champions not repeat since those Golden State Warriors did it before their streak was snapped by the Raptors. And since that Raptors title, nobody's made it out of the second round after winning a championship. Is parity real? Is the first part. Second part, are you buying or selling the Thunder make it out of the second round this season?
Ooh, okay. So first part of it, I am buying that parity is real in the NBA. You look at the history of the league, this has never ever happened where you had this many different champions consecutively over the entire history of the league. So clearly we're in a certain era of the league where things are a bit different. We're used to seeing dynasties in the NBA. Like you can point to certain decades and be like, this team or these teams ran these decades, and you can't necessarily point to like this decade so far in the 2020s of like, this is this team's decade so far. And even the last part of the 2010s of like, you had, of course, like the Warriors and the Cavs and all the finals meetings that they had. But once you push past the battles between Cleveland and Golden State, like the landscape just looks different. So I'm definitely buying that parity, and I think it will continue with the way that the CBA is structured, where I think you'll continue to see less teams where you have a Miami Big Three situation coming together, or teams just trying to put all these superstars together unless they're going to take some significant pay cuts. But after this Kawhi thing, we'll see how many people want to try to take some pay cuts
and invest in some tree companies, huh? I mean,
right. So I'm buying the parity thing, and I am not buying that the Thunder do not make it out the second. Like the Thunder, I think that they are still kind of in a tier of their own in the West. And part of it is that championship, like until you beat the champs, they get a benefit of the doubt. But right under that, where like Denver and Houston are, like those two teams are really scary, really threatening. If the Thunder get the wrong matchup in the second round, things could bend a little bit differently. But I have faith in that Thunder team of what we saw last year not being fluky, even though like Denver did take them 7. And Denver was broken down there by the end. So like it couldn't get competitive, but I think the Thunder did grow up a lot last year on their way to the championship. So I think they'll break that second round curse here that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on all fronts. I think that the parity era, it's the first time we've ever seen it in NBA history. And you can just take this season preview as an example. Like as you get back into basketball form and basketball mode and you get ready for the season, people are going to be picking Denver. They're going to be picking Houston. They're going to be picking Oklahoma City. They're going to be picking Cleveland. They're going to be picking New York. Like people are going to be picking every single champion out there. And yet there's a team that won 68 games last year with a historic point differential, with their youngest core in the NBA, with a 90% retention rate from that team, that had a historically great defense with their historically great point differential, and won the championship, that had a guy that won MVP, led the league in scoring, and won finals MVP and West Finals MVP. And it's not a unanimous pick to win it. And it shouldn't be. I don't think it should be. I'm not making the case that it should be, but that's how far the talent level has risen around the league, where now, even with the Thunder hoarding the deepest, most talented team in the league, Denver still has a really good roster, like a championship level roster. Houston still has a championship level roster. Like that's how good the sport has gotten to where you can't just say it's going to be Oklahoma City. Now, I do think it's a parity era. I also think that of these past champions, going back to the Raptors and all the way through, the Thunder have the best chance to repeat simply because they returned most of their roster, unlike other teams in the past, but also their style of play is more sustainable. Like Boston last year was the closest thing to being sustainable, and even before the Tatum injury went down, like he went down,
quite the same.
They were not going to win the series.
Yeah.
And that was because Mazzulla Ball went flat for one round. And that sucks. I mean, like that's the difference in them making it out. They just could not consistently get their threes where they needed them to be against New York, and they lost that series in the second round. But what are the odds that the Thunder go flat whenever they're leaning on the most translatable thing in basketball, which is defense, and getting out on the other side, creating fast break opportunities and having just the best score in the league go to work in the half court? And they can't possibly shoot as worse as they did from 3 a year ago, I don't think. But it's like that just proves the point of parity to me, is there's a lot of reason to be positive about this Thunder team. And yet I look at Denver and I'm like, oh, Denver can really do it this year. And I really believe that. I really believe that Denver, who took them to 7 games last year while being broken down, Denver had 5.5 players last year that can actually play basketball. And of those 5.5, one of them got the flu, One of them shredded his hamstring, and one of them couldn't lift his arm above his ear. And they took the Thunder to 7. And it's like, that's because Nikola Jokic. That's because of just kind of the identity of like Christian Brown, and because of the identity of that team that has been on big stages in the past. And they've now got Cam Johnson. They've now got more depth than they've had in the Jokic era, to me. And they now like are going to come back at you and swing back at you for a championship. And so even in the East, I mean, all due respect to your conference, whoever makes it out of the East will not have as grueling of a test as the West. And it's like they'll be feeling really good. They should have the rest advantage, frankly, coming out of the East to going to the West in the NBA Finals. But I'm excited for it. And I do think the Thunder, if I had to bet right now, make it out of the second round. It's like that streak does end. But they're not a lock to me to win a championship, which I find to be crazy. And again, not crazy that like it should be the other way. It's crazy that we're at this point in the NBA where the Thunder have all of this going for them that I just rattled off, and yet they're not a lock to win it. Like it's not a situation where, and when I say lock, it's like it's not a situation where it's like fans are tweeting right now like they used to. Oh, why even watch the NBA? It's going to be Steph, LeBron at the end. Like nobody's expecting this like just down in the dumps mentality about this sport. Like, oh, that's the Thunder going to win it again. No, everybody believes that they have a shot, and they should believe they have a shot because they do. And that's how good the talent level has risen. And that's an awesome thing for the league.
It's such an awesome thing for the league. Like I remember those years of like, oh, what's the point of watching? Like we know the Cavs are going to win again. Yeah. People still watched. Like, let's be very clear. They still watched.
Begrudgingly.
Right. But it's something about being able to go into a year and being like, it's wide open. And again, I don't wish injury on anybody. I wish we could turn injuries off because of just to get the best guys on the court at the best time of the year come playoff time. But we saw this past playoffs, how injuries can affect everything, and not even just for that playoff run, but the future of your franchise thereafter. Like, thought that Boston would pivot this upcoming offseason anyways, just because of how much their salary cap was. But the Tatum injury kind of really accelerated things of like, well, let's make sure that we're under this luxury. Can we get under the second apron? Let's see what we can do here. The Bucks. Dame tears his Achilles, and he is no longer a Milwaukee Buck, the largest wave and stretch in NBA history, because the Bucks look around the East and they're like, well, why not us? Why couldn't it be us this year if it is open? Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, if Tyrese doesn't tear his Achilles, does Miles Turner even go to the Milwaukee Bucks? Like, is that even a conversation anymore at that point? And to your point about repeating, I still blame that wet spot that Chris Middleton slipped on in 2022 against the Bulls, of just like, dang, there goes the chance of that back-to-back opportunity for the Bucks. But it can all happen really quickly, which, again, when you have so many good teams, you got to come on your A game every day. That next man up is really important. But also, I think it's just there's a level of excitement that comes from not knowing what's going to happen. And although you might have favorites, you can have a year where, like even last year, the Pacers coming out was kind of a shock to some people of like, oh, okay, what we saw last year was real. So like, that's fun. And I like that. Like, that's the NFL-cation of the NBA, in my opinion, of like, you got a chance. So like, tune in and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right on all fronts. I mean, the Thunder had the opposite of the injury luck that Boston and Milwaukee and Indiana and all these teams had. They were not healthy at all in the regular season. Yeah. They played their most healthy basketball in the postseason, and it helps them out, especially in the two series that they end up going to 7 in, Denver and Indiana. So the Thunder were fortunate in that way. And that's kind of what brings on this era of parity to me, is that because every team is so good, and because even Indiana can go on a miracle run because they have that much talent, and they have talent that people want on their team, like Milwaukee to Lou Ray Turner, like, you need more luck than ever, because if you get anything that goes against you, the other team's going to make you pay for it. And like in the past, you could build rosters that were just so talented that like, no matter what you did, they're going to be at the end. I mean, as long as the 3 guys are at the end, that team's going to be at the end as well. And now it's just impossible to do that to me because of how good the rest of the league is, which I think is going to be so much fun. We'll see who our final picks are coming up this offseason as we start to preview the season ahead. Speaking of previewing the season ahead, to leave you with, NBA top 100 players list according to Locked On, comes out on Monday. Make sure that you're breaking that down on social media. Check in with Locked On NBA for the entire list that they're going to break it down. And we all voted on this. We all kind of took our average votes and everything else and got our list. It's going to be very fun to see how that turns out. There's a lot of surprises on there, I think. So make sure you check that out today. For Camille Davis, I'm Rylan Stiles. Until next time, be good and be good to one another.